Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WookieCast. Today we're here with Tim Veekhoven. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It's a pleasure.
It's an honor to be here with you.
Um, so I'd love to get into a bit of what was your first introduction to the Star Wars franchise, probably as a fan at first.
Well, my father had actually seen Star Wars in 1977 or 1978. And then my parents took me to the rerun of Star Wars in probably by the end of 1980 or early 1981. And then Star Wars was closely followed by The Empire Strikes Back that went into premiere in Belgium back then. So that was actually my first encounter with Star Wars. Um, and yeah, just things that I would like to add is um, I used to play a lot with the Kenner toys as a kid, obviously. And I started to collect everything everything regarding Star Wars when I was about 10 years old. But back in those days, it was Star Wars was really it was dead in Belgium. It was really hard to find anything.
Did you have any
And
favorite
then,
characters back then, after seeing the
oh,
first movie as a child, I guess?
it was really hard because when I was a kid, I yeah, Star Wars was more eh, were more toys than movies because back in those days, you saw a movie in the theater and it was gone. If you were lucky, you were able to catch a rerun like I did with Star Wars. But VHS came later to Belgium than it came to the United States, for example. There were, of course, no DVDs, no Blu-ray. Uh, uh, we shouldn't continue because the internet was really far, far away. Uh, so Star Wars were initially more a toy line for me than the movies. And when I came to realize that Star Wars were mainly movies, then I started to my interest started to change because they were beginning to broadcast the movies on the television. I was able to tape them on VHS. So that was a huge improvement because I was able to watch the movies, as many times as I could, or you were able to rent the movies as well. So that was a big improvement. And then the last huge improvement came when I discovered the West End Games books in the early 90s in Belgium. And that was really an eye-opening event because those were the books I had always dreamed of that they existed, but I didn't know they exist. I didn't know, they really existed. And yeah, I always say that in the early 90s, it was my Star Wars college because I read those books so many times and that I really invested into the in-universe aspect of Star Wars.
And then eventually you got into developing lore later on with What's the Story, which I think was probably your first entries to the Star Wars canon. Do you have any favorite entries of those?
Well, four of my entries were chosen, and it's very difficult to choose because, it might sound silly to say, but they're a bit like children. If you manage to succeed in writing those entries, it's really hard to choose because I really like the cantina scene, and two of my characters appeared in the cantina. But then you have one Bluvba who's really an underdog, and I always like to write about underdogs. And then, Maxiron Agolaga, the holy man who sealed the marriage between Anakin and Padme. What can I say about him? I didn't expect my entry to be chosen for him because yeah, it's easy to explain to someone else who he is because everybody can see him. So that was really nice that his character, that my entry for him was chosen.
And then one of the bigger things that you did work on later on for Star Wars Insider was Rogues Gallery, and that was like a pretty large series, I guess, of issues. How did you first get involved with that?
That's a pretty long story because it needs an introduction. Um, I have always been very interested and passionate about naming unnamed characters. But back at that time, there wasn't really a platform and where unknown or unnamed background characters could be named. And that's when I started to write to the Star Wars Insider uh, by sending them questions like, who is this character? Or what's the name of this character? And occasionally they published one. So I knew that Star Wars Insider could be the perfect platform in a feature like the Q&A session. Back then they had a Q&A section. I still believe they do nowadays, but it's got a different name. So I kept sending them questions and questions and questions about unnamed characters. And then suddenly there was a feature called Rogues Gallery. And I thought, well, hey, here we go. They started to name unnamed characters. But then, back in 2013, I went to a celebration in Essen in Germany, and I met Jonathan Wilkins, who was the editor of the Star Wars Insider. And he said to me, you are the reason we started that feature, because you kept sending us these questions. And yeah, eventually it actually evolved into a feature. And then he asked, well, I also met Leland Chi from the Lucasfilm Story Group at Celebration. And we talked about the feature, and he talked about some of my previous blogs that I had on the official Hyperspace fan club back in the days. It was launched around episode after episode 2 and between episode 3, I believe. Um, and we talked a bit about that. And like a month after I got home from Celebration, uh, Leland asked me to take over the feature, and Jonathan agreed. And then I asked two friends from the Netherlands, Kevin Beentjes and Sander de Lange, to help me with the feature because they have always also been very interesting in Star Wars lore. So that's basically how we got to do it.
That's really cool. Do you have any favorite entries from that? Perhaps anyone that you named kind of like as an Easter egg named after a friend or anything?
Uh, I don't think I did, but um, Helder Spinoza is one of the Cloud City Wing Guards, and Hasbro actually made an action figure of him. Well, Kenner also did in 1980, but they used just the name Bespin Security Guard. But now Hasbro really did use the name Helder Spinoza as a sub name of the character, so that was really cool.
I did hear that there were plans to continue the feature had canon not sort of split off. Is there anything you're able to say about some of the plans that you had if it had continued?
Yeah, we sure had a lot, loads of plans, but yeah, like you said, unfortunately, the decision was made to start with a new canon. Although a lot of the names, a lot of names of background characters still exist in canon. I mean, there is no reason to change their names. But one of the next theme was about to be published was Mos Espa. So we had, if you remember the band from Mos Espa, we had all these guys named. And there was another picture. It was not Akim's Munch, where Sabulba is eating his where Sabulba is eating and Jar Jar disturbs him during his lunch. It was not uh, that cafe, but it was another cafe with a lot of aliens, and we were to combine those two, and those two photos would make would become one feature. But we were also planning to do Home One because the Home One briefing in Return of the Jedi is probably the sequence with still the most unnamed characters. And we would probably have spent two or even three features, two or three articles about that scene. So those were the two most, upcoming plans that we had for the feature if it had continued.
That's really interesting. I guess a lot of them in the current canon have names because of some books, but it's very interesting to hear that they could have had different names, I guess.
Oh, they're still unnamed. Just Leland Shee just confirmed that in the home run briefing you see 4 issue tips, and they have been unnamed forever. But Leland Shee just recently confirmed that one of those is named, and he has kept a name that an issue tip has from from the game from the Phantom Menace, because somewhere on Tatooine there is an issue tip who dresses exactly the same like that issue tip on Home One. So they kept Leland decided to keep the name. So that's at least one more.
Moving on a bit to the Build the Millennium Falcon series, a lot of those focused on one planet or one ship. Did you have any input on choosing which planet or ship would feature in those sections?
No, not totally, not at all, because the assignments were given by the leader of this project, which was Ian Lawson, a very nice man and an author who also wrote and developed the original fact files and the sequent fact files in the UK. So he sent us the themes, and we could all, if like for example there was one planet or one vehicle that you knew next to nothing about, or you had difficulties finding information about, you could always tell them to him and say, "Well, I'm gonna pass on this one," but he just delivered what was needed to write.
Did you have any entries that you enjoyed writing, particularly because you were a fan of the media that they were in?
I enjoyed everything about writing for the Build the Millennium Falcon. It was a great project because uh, we were allowed in limited amounts to create new lore. When we were writing articles and we found that something was really missing, we could add a bit of new lore, and that was really fun.
I did see the list of lore that you had introduced, some character names and etc. Did you have anything that you were particularly happy with putting in?
I really liked writing the article about the Ghost because back then there wasn't really much known about the ship. And I made a connection with the wooden chair that can be found in the crew lounge. And I made a connection that Zap actually brought it with him from his planet because you can very often see him sitting in the chair. But then there were 2 other entries that when I wrote them, I just wrote them because I thought it was useful information. And the first thing is I gave Admiral Coburn his first name, which is Barton. And then when I saw the Bad Batch in season 2, the episode The Summit, I read the credits. I see Admiral Barton Coburn. So they used the name of the character in the credits, which was, yeah, it was really, really cool. And almost the same happened. I also named Duchess Satine's father, Duke Adonai Kreese, and Bo-Katan mentions she spoke about her father in season 2 of The Mandalorian and season 3 of The Mandalorian. She didn't name him, but yeah, that was the guy I named. So that those were 2 cool additions that became cooler afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. Were there any ideas that you perhaps wanted to include but couldn't quite get in there?
Mm, I just remember one guy aboard the Gendirian Valley, the ship that transports Anakin and Padme in episode 2 from Coruscant to Naboo. And that was like a supervisor security guard, and his name is Marcel Chardier. I included a photo of an unnamed guy, which I asked them to include into the article. But I believe his name was kept into the article, but the image wasn't used. So that was still uncertain who he actually was. But I know who he is supposed to be.
Very interesting. Um, A question from one of our readers. I don't know if you know. One of the issues really expanded on Moon 1, which was created in canon for the 2015 Star Wars comic run. They were curious if you spoke to anyone involved with the comic when you were writing that section, or if they had any input or ideas for it.
No, and it's actually a good question, and the answer is no, I didn't. And when I read the question, um, I started to think about it. Why on earth didn't I do it? But the answer is also really simple. The deadlines for writing those articles were rather, yeah, rather short. So I had no idea if the author of the comic would be, uh, yeah, would be available to answer the questions if I could get in touch with him. So I didn't, and basically there was just no time, and I didn't really think about doing that at that time. It would have been a great idea though, but I didn't do it.
Um, and one last minute question that wasn't quite on the list, I was curious if you could shed some light on. The Build the Millennium Falcon series, it was intended to be basically in the new canon, correct?
Yes, that's what Ian uh, told us when we were writing it.
And the same thing, I guess, would go for the new Star Wars Encyclopedia, which you worked on afterwards.
Yes, that's absolutely the case because when I was writing that, there was absolutely no room for creating new lore. We had to stay strictly to the canon lore for the new encyclopedia. There was absolutely no chance to add something to that lore.
That's really interesting. There are things I think that slid in that are new, but they're sitting above me, so that's why I'm looking slightly up. But
Probably, but I don't think I did that because yeah, it was asked by the guy who assigned the articles, um, and I don't remember doing that because yeah, it's just too risky because I am aware of the fact that the canon issue is taken very seriously. And when we were writing Bilderman and the Bilderman and the Falcon happened on that time when Legends and canon when the decision was not that long had been taken not that long ago, and yeah, it was like a bit of a trans uh, period of information, and I guess that's why a lot of people are still wondering about whether it's canon or not, but it was supposed to be canon.
um, with the Star Wars Encyclopedia, it did include a lot of things from recent media or media that was recent at the time, like the High Republic. Were you given any access to things that hadn't quite been published yet to try to work some of that in?
Um, I don't believe I did for the encyclopedia, but um, I also wrote a lot of articles for the official Star Wars website in the past. Um, and I was I had planned writing an article about the Imperial troop transport from Kenner, and then I was told that it was going to appear in Star Wars Rebels, uh, which was unknown back at the time too. So I could include a line. I I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but it might be something like "Look out for the school vehicle that which will soon appear in an episode of Rebels," something like that. And when I was writing Build the Millennium Falcon, it was confirmed to me that Starkiller Base was actually Ilum. Long before it was officially confirmed, although a lot of fans, uh, yeah, probably knew it or expected it to be, but yeah, that was confirmed. But I couldn't write something about that in the article of Ilum. I think it's yeah, it's been many years, but I don't think I could make the link, but I was told that it was actually the case.
It's very interesting. Thank you. One other thing we'd like to talk about is the fan club TK421. I'd love if you could expound a bit on that.
Well, since it's an audio, people can't see it. This is our current magazine. So I co-founded the fan club in 1997 when the special editions were released. And the fan club is still going strong. I've been the president now for several years, and the fan club really focuses on distributing information. We do that online, and we do that, of course, with the magazine, which is published 4 times a year. So now I'm working on a magazine 112. Um, but we are also active on social media, and we organize also club meetings. We have a New Year's drink, we have a Star Wars quiz meeting. Um, we are present at the largest conventions in Belgium. Um, but we actually have a genuine membership, so people can subscribe to the magazine and then they receive it in their mailbox. Um, so yeah, that's basically what we do, and we we are still proud that the magazine is still in print and that it's still in paper, because of course a lot of people nowadays read on the e-reader or on the computer, but it doesn't give the actual feeling of reading something and of having something. And yeah, I'm not a fan of e-readers myself. It
But
could
everything
make,
now is basically digital, so it's hard.
yeah, we also love that vintage feeling that we try to incorporate in things that we do, because one of the next free gifts for our members is like a sticker sheet. So those are all things of the past that we like to reintroduce, and the same goes for the magazine. Of course, if it would be digitally, uh, it would be a
Couldn't
lot
quite do
easier for
that.
me to make the magazine, perhaps. But yeah, and it would also, yeah, sending and distributing the magazine. Of course, it's a lot of more work than doing it digitally, but I don't think as long as we can, we will publish the magazine.
Yeah, and it's great to give people something that they can hold on to, build a collection of, for sure.
Yeah, because we are a non-profit organization in Belgium, so it's an officially published publication in Belgium. We are not an official fan club. I want to be very, very clear about that. But it's an officially published magazine in Belgium, because we have to send each issue to the National Library of King Albert the First in Brussels. So
Do you still have a
that's
copy of each issue all the way through the years?
um, well, I don't think they do, because they started. We received a letter from them that we had to send them magazines, which I obviously was really eager to do. But they did that after a few years. They didn't do that from the beginning when we were founded. So some of the issues were out of stock. So I don't think they have them.
Very cool.
But
If people would like to keep up with you and your work, what social media platforms can they find you on?
um, they can find myself on Facebook, um, and they can follow. And I'm also on, yeah, Blue Sky and on X. Although, yeah, the platform, we all know about it. We don't have to talk about that, I guess. But you can also follow the fan club on the website, and we have a Facebook page. And you can also follow TK41 on Instagram and even on TikTok. So yeah, sometimes we are more modern as well.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Wookieepedia appreciates all that you do, and it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as well, and thank you for having me. It's really an honor, because yeah, I think I there isn't really a day when I don't visit Wikipedia. Because yeah, I'm also working on the Dutch Star Wars wiki Yodapedia, but it's a lot smaller than Wikipedia. So yeah, but we try to do what we can with Yodapedia as well.